Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the Summit for America qualifiers. This is going to be the lower bracket semifinals. Cloud9 against compLexity. Game 2. The winner of this moves on to face Digital Chaos in the lower bracket finals. And then eventually that team will go on, whoever ends up winning there, to face off against Root Gaming for the finals to decide who goes to that final spot for Americas in the Summit 4 later on in December of this year. My name is Lyrical Dota, joined today by Llama Down Under. Absolutely positively excited about this one. How about you?
Yeah, it's really awesome. It's been really great. And I have to say, considering how that game went, very even. There were team fights back and forth. C9 had the advantage for a bit in mid-game, and then compLexity just took it away and ran over them. So really impressed by the play. And a Lich first pick. compLexity loved this hero.
I mean, it ended up working out for them last time. They were able to win the lanes, I think. Well, it was kind of back and forth. I felt like the laning stage, no real team, I felt like, had a clear advantage, and it wasn't until they got to the later stages when compLexity were actually able to execute their team fights really effectively. And I'm wondering now as well if we might end up seeing some more shenanigans. They only need to win one game, and earlier on today we saw what happens when compLexity needs to win one game against Cloud9. They just go and hit that big old man, Mr. Roche. Lich was part of that unit that ended up making them take that earlier on. So, I don't know. Keep an eye out for that. We'll see if this is what they're going to go for again.
Yeah, I also think when you've done previously a level 1 verse strat, you have the mind games of, are we doing it, or are we doing that next level alliance play where you can definitely pretend that you're going for the Roshan, but instead skill up your team fight spells and just be really ready to beat up your opponents. I don't think Cloud9 will fall for this. They've got to... It's really hard, right? Like, you're probably like, they wouldn't pull a level 1 Roche 2 days in a row, or one day, twice.
I mean, but to be fair, like, it would be a pretty amazing story there to be able to knock out a team two times in the same day with the same strategy. It's got to be something that Cloud9 are at least thinking about. I don't think it needs to change their draft at all, but it's probably going to change how they end up approaching the earlier stages of this game. As we mentioned, Lich first pick. This is going to leave open the Doom as well as the Rubik. Early bans, we also saw a Darkseer as well as the Io, Shadow Fiend, and the Winter Wyvern, banning away a couple of those Vlad heroes at this point in time. Dazzle's still in the pool if they wanted to run for something like that, but all of the core is still open now for compLexity, while the Doom was taken, and they end up going for a Slardar. Always a strong pick there.
Yeah, you got the minus armor, you got the positive armor. Doom, certainly a hero who doesn't start with much armor on his, but gonna be all right there.
Cut out there for a second, but I think it's all fine. I think I knew what you're talking about. Slardar, good hero. I think that's what I was hearing, right? Is that...
Yeah, sorry. It was having to deal with something on my mic. Yeah, basically Slardar, big stun. He has lots of minus armor. Doom doesn't have a lot of armor when he starts, and should be able to take advantage of that. And as you mentioned last game, the Lich Slardar lane, like that type of lane, Lich can be a real pain.
No, totally. And we'll see how they try and prioritize their drafting from here on out. Bans that could come out, a couple of the big heroes that are still around, Ember Spirit, if they wanted to take that away from Cloud9, one of the few heroes that they really ended up having in trouble with in the earlier stages. They take out the Tusk first. I think kind of, it's so up in the air right now. 6.85, you're in this situation where the patch is just over a month old and still new things are being found out. I think about the Chinese scene over there where they have the Alchemist Morphling combination in the off lane as well as the Alchemist in the safe lane and the mid lane, and just farming all over the place. North America, meanwhile, you've got, Doom that remains king over all others, and while, that's pretty much true no matter what, Slardar and Tusk play much more of a vital role in these matches. It's so cool to see the game become incredibly dynamic with what heroes you're able to run. If you look at Cloud9 and the way that they pick their safe lane, they sort of feel very comfortable on Anti-Mage, on Gyrocopter, and on Ember Spirit. But beyond that, they have about, I want to say, like 8 or 9 heroes that they've only picked one time because situationally they're strong enough that they feel like that's going to be the hero to go for. I'm loving what I've been seeing with this patch. I think it's one of the best ones that we've had in a while. And as I'm just off of my soapbox now, Broodmother has also been banned out.
Yeah, banning out the Chessie hero again and getting rid of the Dazzle that getting rid of the Dazzle that most teams don't want to play into. As you said, though, much better than that patch we had where the same heroes were kind of picked every time. We've got similar strong heroes, and Gyrocopter actually going to be picked up for Ritsu again. We'll see if he has a better time on it this game than he did in his last professional Gyrocopter game. but still a bit more variance. Queen of Pain also banned out, so they have banned out kind of two Vlad heroes, two Chessie heroes. You kind of wonder, will Zizzy maybe get his pick of the litter? It doesn't feel like they've been picking as much around Zizzy though for complexity.
No, I think that I think back to that interview that you ended up doing, where they said that they were when they got the level one Roshan, they put the Aegis on Chessie, and saying that essentially the idea was going with the highest MMR guy or the person that they felt like had the most talent. And it seems like they really respect his play, his ability to make good decisions, and wanting to give him the heroes that they feel like he's going to be able to have the highest impact on. So coming on in very strong. I think complexity, you know, Cloud9 clearly coming in as the favorites, but complexity have given them a great showing so far. I've been really impressed. I was going to mention the Quap as a potential ban just because, I mean, he played that hero so ridiculously well, even able to come back from that deficit that happened early. All around, I can't wait to see what this ends up bringing. The thing that I'm going to mention swiftly is that the Cloud9 draft, they need to have somebody else defensively to keep that gyrocopter alive. That's the problem with this hero, is that he doesn't necessarily deal well with a lot of aggression and a lot of burst damage leveled against him quickly. And I'd be interested to see if complexity go for something like Alina here to try and burst him down in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, he okay, and this game just got. I mean, it could still be exciting, but we have a Viper pick. Yeah, the gyrocopter definitely he outputs a lot of damage, but as you said, he's very fragile, and that's why heroes like Tusk are fantastic against him because they can kind of dodge all of that damage output and then just kind of walrus punch him in the face. So that's an option, but instead we've got Viper for complexity, which he just kind of wins his lane. He's a really odd hero in that he outputs not the hugest amount of damage, but he's naturally tanky. He does well against Gyro since that's magic damage. And Cloud9 add a Leshrac. Do you think this is support or the carry Leshrac we've seen a few times?
Well, it's somewhat interesting. The way that Brax plays his heroes, his sort of most played are TA, Dragon Knight, Alchemist, and Death Prophet this patch. Those are the big four that he's sort of consistently come on back to. And if you think about what those heroes have in common, it's a lot about being able to keep waves pushed out, keep lanes pushed out, and eventually take towers. And while Lesh did end up getting nerfed in terms of the amount of damage that his Lightning Storm, or excuse me, the jump radius from the Lightning Storm, I still think that in the mid lane, this is a very strong hero, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they tried to throw him in there. Of course, against Viper, it's not the best matchup in the world. You're still going to be taking a decent amount of damage from corrosive skin, but I still think it's pretty good. Viper isn't able to shut down this hero as much as some of the other ones, I feel like. Although you are going to need to rely a lot more upon your spells than you would for somebody else.
Yeah, we've also got an Abaddon now. I'm actually going to try to pull out some stats while we're discussing this to see. I know Abaddon actually, I've seen him a few times recently. He's not the most picked of heroes. And I'm kind of wondering, this could actually be a carry Abaddon. So apparently on this patch, Abaddon has only been picked 5 times in professional games. And he's got a 20% win rate. Okay.
Okay,
Looks
cool.
like he's often played as a support, judging by that. But I think it's certainly something, I don't know if you've seen this before, but the forced push lineup with Abaddon, where you use that Curse of Avernus to just take down towers.
Yeah, that's something that you can definitely do. Of course, the other one is the Aphotic Shield and being able to take off like long duration stuns. Uh, it doesn't like there's no Mirana here, you know. There is obviously the Lesh, and that can be a bit of a problem with the Split Earth, but I guess just more sort of one of those heal-a-bots. It's a defensive support again for Vlad. I'm assuming that's going to be who plays this, and maybe he's going to feel very comfortable on this hero. I'm not really exactly sure about it. Swindles is the one that's going to be... What is going on right now? We've got the Warlock who's going to be picked up in the support role. They ban on out the Ancient
I don't
Apparition,
know if
also
it's
taking out the Wind
support.
Ranger. Go for it.
No, I don't know if I agree that it could be support. You're right. The lineup of Cloud9, whether they do the Leshrac or the Warlock support or even the Doom support, I saw a Doom support earlier today. It's still viable, arguably, with the changes to Scorched Earth, but I don't know. I feel like Warlock, he really benefits from farm, and maybe something where they give him just a bit more farm and really sack the Rubik, but then Rubik wants a lot of farm. I don't know.
I
As
think
you
that
said,
you're
Cloud9
right.
lots of options.
I could see this actually as a core Warlock in the mid lane, and then you have a roaming support combo of Rubik Leshrac. They do end up taking the DP, so this is going to be Chessie playing that in the mid lane. Very interesting. MSS is going to be taking the Warlock. We have SVG on the Rubik. Ritsu is going to be playing on that gyrocopter, but if you take a look at the way that these stuns work and the way that they interact together, 1.5 seconds of lift from Rubik at level 1 with 2 seconds of stun from Leshrac, that's 3.5 seconds of disable with right clicks going on in conjunction with that, and it does look like that's what they're going to be opting to do. Is this going to be an off-lane Warlock, or is this going to be an aggressive tri-lane?
They've certainly got options. Another thing I want to mention is that complexity has gone for the we have barely any stuns lineup, which, as we've seen before, doesn't pay. If you're trying to run at your opponents and do damage with someone like a Death Prophet, if you can't also lock them down, it's rough. And yes, Death Prophet is a race card, but this is I don't know. It's a very interesting draft from both teams.
I think that complexity are probably going to try and get a quick mech up on maybe the Lich, potentially. I don't know if he's going to be able to find the farm. Or we'll stop theory crafting. We're just going to introduce the players. We don't need to postulate about what possibly is going to happen. We're going to see it in a few minutes here. Ritsu is going to be playing on that gyrocopter. We got SVG playing the Rubik. MSS is going to be on your Doombringer. 1437 playing that little disco pony. And last but not least, Brax, who's going to be on the Warlock.
Yeah, and we've got Swindles on that Slaughter, Viper being played by Zizzy, going to be a Death Prophet played by Chessie, Z-Freak on that Lich again, and Vlad on the Abaddon. And it does look like... Okay, a 1 minute pause. We've got a lot of items. Vlad has been sacked a little. It looks like he's playing not the 4 or the 5. Looks like he might be the 5 here, but still a bit too early to tell since both Lich and Abaddon can do a lot with very little gold.
Yeah. I feel like whenever I end up trying to think about what it is that they're going to do, it always ends up being wrong to a certain extent, but it does look like they go and check Roche Pit first. So 1437, making sure that no shenanigans are going on.
Oh, yeah, actually, with Curse of Avernus, I don't know how the Death Prophet factors in, but I don't actually think they could have done Roche. Like, maybe with Curse of Avernus and then you have Roshan hitting the Frost Armor on the Lich, you can get something done there. Seems a bit rough. And on to these teams, it does look like complexity kind of have an early push lineup. They certainly can have some fight centered around this, but this Death Prophet to me, kind of weird.
I think it's just they're going to try and double down on taking these towers as quickly as possible. To me, that makes the most sense, and that might be why they ended up taking the Warlock as well, because they want to be able to have something to counter out that DP push. I don't know. I agree with you. It's going to be a very tough sell for them to be able to make this happen, but depending if they get off to an early lead, I mean, crazier things have happened. Than I feel like if Complexity are going to win this game, it's going to happen either through like a ridiculous end of the game, push, counter push, boots of travel play, or in the first 20 minutes. I don't really see them taking it at like that 40 to 50 minute mark.
Yeah, their late game is definitely questionable. Death Prophet always does do huge amounts of damage, and it's another one of those cases, as you mentioned, where Gyrocopter can't stand up to that early. So if Chessie does manage to catch people out of position with the Exorcism, Gyrocopter will melt. At the same time, getting that type of lockdown, I mean, Curse of Avernus slows, you got Lich with some slow, Viper has a slow. Maybe that's what you're going for, right? You just movement slow them down to like that 20% and you're good.
Well, and slows are more important in the early game than stuns are, and stuns obviously being more important in the late game. I don't know, time will tell. It's certainly, I think that they have the potential here, and I feel like Cloud9 probably realize what that potential is of winning in the earlier stages, and they're going to itemize around being able to deal with that. And like you mentioned again, it's going to be a tough sell to see if they're going to be able to make it happen. But Brack's just going to lay on down that Shadow Word on top of Chessie and be an absolute pain in the butt here in this mid lane.
This mid lane is a little bit easier, I think, for Chessie to win just because of the spam ability of Crypt Swarm. Probably, what is their gank potential on their lineup? SVG and Leshrac can definitely run an effective smoke combo, so they should be able to pick off Death Prophet, while I think it's a bit harder for Complexity to run a kind of smoke gank lineup.
I will mention real quickly, we just missed the Rubik wasn't able to... They did a lift into a split earth, but it didn't quite end up hitting, and so because of that, Gyrocopter ended up expending a little bit of mana and not being able to kill off the Viper in that top lane. Bottom lane, MSS going to keep on just harassing away. Doom should be fine here. I don't see him, unless he gets caught out before he gets level like 3 or 4, probably level 3. I think that he's fine in this lane. Obviously, you're going to have a stun as well as the slow coming out from Frost Blast, but I think he should be okay here.
Yeah. I also do wonder, as you mentioned, I think I'm trying to remember whether it was Cloud9 who I saw doing this. I there was a team recently who had a lot of trouble landing the telekinesis into Split Earth. You're probably thinking, wow, you should really be able to get that one. But if it's not something you've practiced a lot, or maybe your ping is playing up a little bit, I can see mistakes being made there, and it's kind of core to them getting kills on this aggressive tri lane.
Yeah, definitely. Also, of course, the Curse of Avernus being able to, or not Curse of Avernus, excuse me, Aphotic Shield being able to interrupt that. So Vlad, another defensive support for him. Oh, God. Seafreak might be in a little bit of trouble. Does need to get off that slow before he ends up getting chased down. And Scorched Earth now committed. Looks like MSS wants to go for this one. Is going to be able to run him down at least a little bit. Still within range. Can they kill him here? With Slardar rotating, that's going to be fine. That's a lot of damage leveled. And now mid lane, Chessie is going to end up getting lifted on back. Split Earth does connect, and this is going to be a dead Chessie. First blood going to Brax.
Yep. Well played there, and that's what we were talking about. They're a super easy combo for getting that, and they have the nice easy path down from the high ground. Oh, that line I drew is questionable. But we're going to be seeing them head back up top and causing some trouble. The other issue, so you've mentioned already the Aphotic Shield. Viper himself, right? 1 point up in Corrosive Skin. He's already rocking a bunch of magic resist, and he's not an easy target to burst down. So this aggro tri-lane into a Viper, maybe they just should rotate it.
Well, yeah, it's always an option. I think that, I don't know. To me, I feel like they don't necessarily... Like, as long as they're able to disrupt Zizzy's farm here, Viper doesn't catch up very easily. We do have something going on down the bottom lane. It looks like MSS might be able to get taken out there. Does commit the salve as well, so he dies after using the salve. Swindle's going to be able to walk away from this one. That's a huge win. But back to what we were talking about up top, as long as they don't let him get out to a commanding lead, I think that this is almost a win just because of how poor Viper farms. But... I don't know. It's still tough. You want to be able to get a lot out of the aggro tri-lane. Gyrocopter's still gotten a lot of farm. Ooh. He's got... Are they going to be able to find this? There's
yep,
the lift
they
on
should.
Back.
Gonna be no, they don't. Earth split, no follow-up. Really confused as to what happened there. Now they do the split Earth, but Gyrocopter, he's already used his spells. He's got another Rocket Barrage coming up, but they're in the middle of a creep wave, and actually 1437 taking mass amounts of damage, not getting the turnaround on Vlad. Another weird engagement. I don't think the split Earth was on cooldown for Leshrac.
I think that they decided to bail when they saw the Lich come on in. They didn't want to end up going for it anymore because Viper, like we've been talking about, is such a monster in lane. And if they did end up really taking that fight with the Lich already committed up to the top lane, maybe they end up turning it around and you just lose both heroes. But it is a little bit strange because you would expect that they would know that that might end up coming over. Oh, Chessie might end up dropping here now. MSS will be able to run him down. The Roaming Doom. Ugh. Such a disgusting hero.
Really well played there by the Doom, being a race car with that Scorched Earth, and as you said, you can just walk at people and finish them off. Chessie didn't have any sort of defense mechanism up there. Looking around the map though, Slaughter is topping the last hits, and then of course Brax and the Gyro. Viper, yeah, he doesn't have a good way to flash farm. Might be a game where he goes Midas, might be something where he just decides, look, I have to kill things, and he'll roam after a few levels, or be involved in ganks, I should say. But kind of weird, Slaughter having a field day.
Yeah, and this is going to be great for them. I mean, if he's able to get a quick Blink Dagger, all of a sudden, the lack of catch that we've been talking about on complexity's lineup is completely supplemented in this early game, and you're going to be able to crush on into all of the other stuff that's coming on out. Oh, Swindles needs to be careful here. If Rubik gets a lift, that is a dangerous spot to be in. We do get the rotation on in from the Gyrocopter as well, so they are going to switch lanes like you were talking about, and maybe going to be able to surprise them and find a kill here. Probably not. Maybe. Time will tell.
Yeah. So I do like this rotation. It's going to help them get more farm and shut down Swindles. Him getting an early blink. Another telekinesis split Earth going off. And, yeah, going to be unfortunate up there. So now Zizzy gets some space, as you mentioned. Whether the Viper can make a lot of it, going to be the question. Chessie actually headed out into jungle stacks.
All right. He can do a good amount of damage to him with Crypt Swarm. I'm going to be honest, we haven't seen a ton of DP in this patch or the recent one, so it's kind of hard to tell exactly what this hero is capable of doing. But I think that with 300 damage at level 4 for Crypt Swarm isn't bad at all, and if you combo that in with, maybe the Slardar coming in and being able to finish off his Blink Dagger with a couple of crushes, there's the chance there to get a good amount of a golden flex.
We have they use the golems in mid. MSS is coming in, doesn't have the Doom yet, but does have the Scorched Earth and Chessie. The TPs are stopped. Chessie's gonna die. Courier isn't able to deliver in time. Good use of the golems, and that is a funky golem. I haven't actually seen this golem before.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a pretty cool little guy. He's got some horns hanging out. He is fine. Can take on out this tower as well. And I talked about these heroes that want to be able to push on down towers. Warlock fits this pretty well, and this is what Brax likes to do. These early aggression, being able to, dole out a lot of damage very quickly. It's interesting that like Cloud or compLexity haven't been able to be as aggressive as we thought they might be, but maybe they just need that sort of key timing when Slaughter gets his blink dagger up and you get level, the ultimate up on the DP as well.
Yeah, so a nice tower kill there for Cloud9. Swindle's trying to be a pain in the jungle to the Ritsu, but instead Ritsu's gonna just farm the creeps and be fine. Gyrocopter actually doesn't have great farm here. The Viper is ahead of him.
MSS top lane in the jungle is going to be able to run down Chessie yet again. He is deep though, and there's actually the DP ulti. Oh god, is she going to end up dying to this? Does end up getting that kill, and MSS is just going to be able to walk away from this one. With the heal coming out from the Warlock, that's the first DP ulti committed for this, and going to be able to take out the last of the stack. Oh no, that is not what you want to have happen.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the exorcism being committed there, it's actually atrocious. It's really, really rough for Chessie, and he is not having the great start. Like, last game, he had a bad start, but this game, 8 minutes in, Chessie's getting barely anything, and he really needs items up on the Death Prophet, probably wants that Yules, probably wants a couple of other things, and it's just going to get harder with Doom roaming around. Doom will be, it is online already, and he can start using it on people.
Yeah, this is... I mean, okay, we talked about before how we felt like, as we see Warlock pick on up a Hand of Midas, how we felt like, compLexity wasn't going to be able to sustain long into the late game last match, and then they sort of got off to a little bit of a rough start and they were able to bring it back. There's always that chance. You can always come back in these games, and while it is a pretty significant gold advantage and things haven't gone their way, 2,000 net worth lead is not insurmountable. So it looks like Swindle again is going to come on in. This is, I think, honestly, Slardar is what it's going to come down to. Swindles needs to make some huge plays this game, and if he's able to do that, if he's able to get that blink up, you are going to start to see this turn back around here. But it's going to be a little bit of a big ask. Lift on Z-Freak.
Not able to cliff him. Yeah. I think also something that's really important here for compLexity is the experience is even in their favor. Early game, 2,000 gold, it's not a full item up on an enemy hero. You want the experience lead because that just means that your heroes have scaled better. When it's something like 5,000, that's one team having a mech plus maybe a Sange or something, right? But when it's just 2,000, probably not a full item on someone because it's split across the team. And as you said, Swindle getting closer and closer to that blink dagger. I wonder where he'll start trying to make stuff happen. It does feel like he'll need some help with the damage output. Zizzy and Swindle may maybe go roam while they hope Chessie gets back into this game. Or they could just say, hey, we'll commit the next exorcism for a power push with the threat of a blink. Slaughter, Slithering Crush.
Yeah, I think that Gyrocopter might be the key target. Just because, as we've talked about, the sort of vulnerability of this hero, particularly before he ends up gaining a BKB, which isn't going to be online at any given point in time, they do end up spotting out this 3 stack here, and they're going to be able to stack it one more. Oh, not stack it one more time. They're going to try and actually finish this one off. Viper ends up getting the ulti off on top of 1437. Warlock Golem's committed. That is going to end up being a kill on the Lesh, though. Are they going to be able to make their way out of here? Aphotic Shield down. There's the call down. Oh, God. They're going to be able to take this whole stack. Gyrocopter kills off the Viper. Warlock, and MSS is all in their business as well. Doom comes down onto Z-Freak, and Aphotic Shield or not, I don't think he's going to be able to survive through this. Maybe they can actually do it. Oh, Vlad, can you survive? If they get his kill, now they're going to be able to get a double on MSS. All right, the rotation on in from Swindles, he's going to be able to maybe find somebody here, but all of his backup's going to be in time. Oh, compLexity.
Yeah, a bad engagement for them, and as you said, it is too little too late. They can't actually... I think Swindle should have just kept farming in bottom lane. MSS getting such a good engagement there. Chessie actually went for the deny onto Z-Freak, and it just didn't work out, so fantastic move there. And MSS, he is playing really well in this Doom, being a race car. I just really liked his movement. He was way up in front while the rest of his team was back, so nice job there.
Absolutely. And, I mean, sort of small glimmer of hope, the last great hope for complexity, maybe not last great hope, but one of them at least, is going to be Swindles here getting relatively close to that Blink Dagger. And it's like, we've been talking about for a little while. It's sort of feeling like, are we going to be able to see it? Is it going to be coming out soon? And it is. Again, you're looking at a Rubik that just stole Viper Strike because that's what you steal when Viper's in the game. Yeah, this actually, also on top of this, 1437 maxing on out the Diabolic Edict. These towers are going to fall very quickly.
Yeah, it's a really nice Rubik game here, actually. There are quite a few great things you can steal, like the Silence from Death Prophet. Anything you get off of Lich, you're probably pretty happy with. And as you mentioned, you're always insured Viper Strike. And in Slaughter's case, you can get a lot of great stuff too. So you're pretty happy Rubik, and having a much, after the early, maybe a hard start in that aggro try, having a much better game. Mm-hmm. They're going to smoke themselves up looking for some slay or just ward placement. Roshan potential early on for Cloud9, not quite there, just with their heroes, so they have to be careful that complexity doesn't sneak it with the amp damage.
Yeah, definitely. And that seems like the type of play they're going to need to make to get back into this one. And as we talk about that, Swindle is actually going to roam on down here. He's smoked on up. I think that this is the play where they try and take on out somebody. Honestly, any kill that you find at this point is huge, and it looks like they might be able to find Brax. Do end up connecting with the stun there. Amp damage committed as well. Now here comes the DP Prophet. Ulti, Exorcism, but they're all in the call down. I think that they're okay here. Doom down on top of Vlad. He's in a lot of trouble. Now Gyrocopter in the middle of all of them. Chessie is going to end up falling. I'm eating my words as we do end up seeing a pretty good chain for us. One more hit does kill off the Rubik. But at what cost? RNG. 2 for 2.
Yeah. 2 for 2. It's a mid for a support, Swindle trying to go in for more, but doesn't look like he'll follow on Ritsu. The Fatal Bonds there did great work, and it was a really nice timing as well on the gank on the Warlock. He had like 8 seconds on his Chaotic Offering, so didn't have to face that in their team fight. But Fatal Bonds plus cooldown did mad work on their team.
Mm-hmm. That's such a great spell, honestly. How many points does he have in that? He only has 1 point in it right now. But as they try and push these high ground more and more, you're going to sit into a situation where Fatal Bonds is going to get leveled up. You're going to be able to just tear apart the enemy team so quickly. And with Call Down mixed in there, also maybe being able to set on up a Leshrac stun, they don't have anything to bring it all together like that Vacuum or the Winter Wyvern Curse. But still, pretty solid. Net worth wise, where are we looking at? 6,200 on the Warlock. Looks like the Doom is sitting at 5,200, and Slardar right behind them as well. Cloud9, 5k net worth lead. Experience, we're sitting at 2k. I kind of feel like they need something big to be able to come back into this one, and Cloud9 are actually looking to be on the aggressive now. They smell blood. They're ready for this one.
Yeah, Aghanim Scepter almost up on Brax. SVG also doing good work towards... He has to buy a lot of wards, but I think the Blink Dagger coming out of this Rubik just going to be bigger and better. And now they're going for the Roshan. So they're nice and ahead. They've got Edict up. Yeah, this guy, it's going to take them a bit longer than maybe some of the other teams, something with amp damage or even the Exorcism used, but they'll be able to get it. And complexity cannot contest. And even if they did, they're going to be scouted by these deep wards they placed earlier with the smoke. So really nice play there. And Gyrocopter getting that Aegis. A much better Gyrocopter game for Ritsu. He also is working on Assange and Yasha, something that's kind of almost surprising here. We're only 14 minutes in. Oh, goodness. They actually hit the Chaotic Offering just on Zizzy, but it is more than enough to bring him down with the Rocket Barrage. And Corrosive Skin not going to save you there, even though he's working on maxing out that spell.
I think that they thought that was the whole team right up. Oh, wait, no, they didn't because of the ward. Yeah, they knew what they were doing. They're just going to go now and try and take the tier 2 here. They've got Aegis. They've got everything. Honestly, they could think about going high ground. I think that the safer play is to go for some of these other tier 2s across the map. And Cloud9 do tend to play a very, very safe game when they're ahead. They like to play from ahead just based upon, I mean, everybody likes to play from ahead, but well, MSS thought about the Doom there on Chessie, but leaving it alone for now.
Yeah, as you said, taking the tier 2 is the much safer play, just really shutting down any chances complexity has. And we talked about the draft earlier. If complexity wasn't ahead, what are you going to do with a late game Death Prophet who is maybe going for a Rod of Atos? That's another way to slow people down and try to catch up to them. But by the time she has this, there may be BKBs up on people who are just going to walk away and not really care too much about it. So very rough to be Chessie in this game.
Do you think that that's a good next item, or do you agree with this gyrocopter going for this, what I think is going to be a Sanjin Yasha? I
Oh,
guess,
he can totally go Sanjan Yasha. He is not feeling threatened right now. A lot of the time, you go the BKB when you're actually having issues against fighting into the other team. Also, sometimes it's good to preemptively pick up, right? But you see a lot of people will hoard their gold, and it's like kind of, I'm hoarding my gold for, do I need the BKB or can I go a greedier damage item? Sanjin Yasha will tank up Ritsu quite a bit. He might just get the BKB so he doesn't even have to worry about stuff like the Lich, Frost, yeah, the Blast and the Slaughter, Slithering Crush, but he's got a lot of flexibility right now because it doesn't feel like complexity other than exorcism have damage output, and he just needs to not be in the exorcism.
yeah, well, we'll see if he's going to be able to evade away from that one. Speaking of which, we might end up seeing that popped in just a second or two here. Of course, with the Warlock being in the area, no Warlock ulti for another 40 seconds. Oh, Doom coming on out is going to be able to level against the Viper. He might just want to turn around and fight on into this one with the Exorcism going. MSS is dropping relatively low, but so much damage being dealt on out here. On top of Chessie, he needs to be careful. You want to be able to go into the middle of all of this, but I'm not sure if you're quite tanky enough as Chessie. The Abaddon is trying to do everything that he can to keep the buddy safe, but I don't know. This might end up just being a wasted ulti. Their burst damage is so strong right now.
I think as long as you didn't die to the Doom, they're probably complexity, feeling like that went as well as it could. The other thing I just wanted to mention is they got wrecked by Upheaval there. Upheaval gets stronger as it goes, and so it's one of those things where they didn't walk into it for a while. Brax got to channel it, and then Chessie kind of came into it at max strength almost. Well, it came into it at near max strength, and he just took so many tower hits because he's trying to turn around and walk away, but you can't in Upheaval after it's been channeled for a bit. So really, things not going complexity's way, and as you said, looking like they're just going to lose another tower.
Unfortunately, right now, Warlock doesn't have his Aghanim Scepter on the Courier, but it is completed. I mean, with Aegis right now, you would love to be able to have that on him right now. Instead, Lesh is going to be having something brought on out to him. I think it might be, what is that, Yules or Wards or something? Okay, it's going to be an Urn. Oh, God, a couple of lag issues there, sorry. I thought that somebody else had an Urn in this game as well, but nonetheless, they're going to be going up for high ground now. They got Chaotic Offering. They're ready to go, ready to party. Call Down is there in full effect as well. Honestly, they've just got so much damage. What do you do against this lineup when it's knocking on your front door? You've already used Exorcism. The only thing that they've really got is Chain Frost from Z-Freak, but you can kind of just avoid that.
You have to delay them for another 65 seconds because then the Aegis is down and you're not fighting into them twice. Also, Vlad had an Urn, might have been what you were thinking of, so he went for that quickly. But yeah, you really just have to delay them. You have to delay this high ground push. You can't fight into the Aegis, but here it's going to come. Split Earth going to be cancelled, and 1437 actually taking quite a bit of damage. And Zizzy trying to do, clearing the wave, putting some damage out onto the gyro. Only 40 seconds left for them to wait out this Aegis. Honestly, if they can... Oh,
that's the play.
yeah, they want to go for the smoke wraparound. Unfortunately, Cloud9 didn't stay.
I think that this is still okay, though. It looks like they're going to try and catch them over towards this mid lane, and if they're able to find this wraparound, this is potentially at least bringing you back into the game. It's not going to... I mean, they go for the Rubik first. They're able to find him. SVG does end up getting a lift there. Cancels the crush. Is going to finally finish him off. A couple right clicks are going to be enough. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to find anybody else, though. Getting the Rubik is good. They would have loved to find somebody else there, though.
Yeah. At this point, though, as you mentioned, it's take what you can get. You are delaying that push. You're making sure you don't have to fight into Aegis, and they do have a smoke left to buy out. Both teams actually rocking that. Oh, they just bought it. Okay, their smoke is being replaced now on complexity. There we go. And yeah, they can potentially go for another pickoff like that. I want to talk about Zizzy's itemization. He's going Sandan Yasha. It just feels like he needs so much more to be relevant.
Yeah, you'd love to be able to get a little bit more, but I guess apparently that aggressive tri-lane, being able to shut him down enough to where he can't really catch up. You mentioned the Midas, and if he was going to maybe go for that later on in the stages of the game to make sure that he was able to be relevant later. The problem, of course, is that this lineup of theirs, I think, was really formulated to try and push early, and they haven't been able to make that work, I think largely because the lanes didn't end up giving them that opportunity. Cloud9's draft, I think, was a pretty good response, throwing that Warlock in the mid lane. He was able to get a couple of good rotations by the roaming Rubik and the Lesh. They picked up that kill very early on, and all of these heroes at this point for complexity, they want to be able to farm on up and have the advantage, but when you lose in the lane, Well, Chessie can toss out those Crypt Swarms. You saw those stacks; they weren't able to take them. It just didn't happen quick enough. This is not, like the Leshrac or Shadow Fiend or anything else like that.
Yeah, and Gyrocopter got the Yasha, probably working towards a Manta. It could also be a Scotty, but I doubt it. And he's already got up the Helm of the Dominator. They're prepared to go late if they need to, but not exactly feeling like Cloud9 needs to. And Brax finished off that Ags a bit ago. I guess Refresher maybe next. He's got options. It looks like we have a tower trade coming out. Chessie hasn't actually expended the Exorcism, so that's something. And he's finally finished up that Yule, so... Yeah, I mean, I think for compLexity, this is good given the state of the game where they're in, but now another high ground defense coming out of them, and I don't know if they're ready.
They're going for it. They don't care. Apparently, they're going to be willing to trade on out these towers here. No, okay, they're TPing out. I saw the pings on that. I was wondering if they're going to be going for it. Actually, I wonder, they don't have really any way to cancel TPs either. So that would have been like the really cool play, but not going to be able to do that. The only thing they could have potentially done was like a Slardar blink on in to cancel TPs while DP ulti is going.
I think it's kind of funny we didn't talk about it earlier, but the other issue with lack of stuns, obviously there's kill potential, but as you said, late game, canceling TPs, I mean, you can itemize around it, and certainly you're going to need stuns that go through BKB in late game if you want to cancel TPs, but it is really rough to have to play against this lineup, and compLexity just feeling like they've maybe drafted themselves into a bit of a hole. Although if they can catch out, no, Brax gets a haste rune, so not going to be any catching him out. That's Dota for you.
Absolutely. All right, Rubik saving on up. Going to be able to pick up a blink next, I would imagine. As we've talked about, a lot of great spells to steal, but he needs to be able to be in position to make that happen. Did also take out a Photic Shield for himself, so another great little piece of equipment there. For the Leshrac, I think this is also like the item for him, the Ghost Scepter. He's already really swift, going to be able to run around inside of that Exorcism, doesn't have to worry about the Viper, and can just sort of do Leshrac things with Pulse Nova going. So yeah. I think that's they're kind of being able to play the safe route across the board to make sure they can deal with what compLexity are bringing.
I really like it, and as you said, this Ghost Scepter are going to do a lot of work. If all of Slardar's damage is physical, Death Prophet, of course, the Exorcism, you can just be like, hey guys, I'm Ghost Sceptering away, and it's not a problem. Death Prophet may actually be working on a Glimmer Cape up next. I'm not sure if this is a casual cloak or actually going to be a Glimmer Cape. Certainly effective against Cloud9, but of course they're carrying sentries all the time. And Warlock, I think that is the refresher coming out of him. A couple other things it could be, but I certainly enjoy the refresher here. Not feeling like a game where you need something like a Linken's or a Lotus Orb.
I mean, if they go up there and drop down 4 golems on top of any of these barracks, I think they just win the game. Like, I don't think you have enough damage to be able to deal with that or even take them out. They are going to commit the Exorcism for Roche. This is something that they needed. Like, it might have been a bit high, but the pings come on out. DD Rune and Slardar is going to be the one that takes the Aegis this time around, getting ready for their team fight defense up in the top lane. Exorcism is still going to be going for a little bit, but I think it's going to be gone by the time the fight actually starts up.
They're actually, yeah, it's... Okay, so the Cloud9 immediately pinged, pushing the tower top after they saw that the Roshan went down. I think understanding that there's no way compLexity did it with how little time they were off the map without committing the Exorcism. So I'm pretty sure Cloud9 have a good idea of this, and I love this staying smoked up. They're trying to see if they can get a jump on Chessie, and there it is. Blink in. Oh, goodness, she manages to Yule out of that stun, but she's going to be in the upheaval that's being channeled, and Chessie has nothing. Chessie already melted onto the deck, buys back, but no Exorcism, and this tower is falling fast. We've got Viper Strike coming out onto MSS, but he doesn't care. Swindle goes in, but now it's the upheaval BKB, but he's melting against them, and he's not going to have that BKB for long if he's not careful. Lich Ult bouncing to creeps, farming those up, but Z-Freak is already dead, and it looks like this final hold from compLexity, it might not be enough. They've taken out one golem. Can they get the second? Swindle actually stuns it up. Chessie has to use the Crypt Swarm moment. Now we've got a Ghost Scepted up Leshrac, lift onto Zizzy, and Zizzy falls. Where is Swindle Melons? He needs to come back in here and get some good work done, but he can't. He wants to wait his next BKB or something. Not a good use, unfortunately, and it doesn't look like they'll be able to burn the Aegis into anything.
That was a little bit unfortunate. They were doing the best that they could in that fight. Now Swindle's coming back in again. The buyback by the Lich. They have the opportunity to catch. I think they get Brex 3 caught with the stun. What is that AoE? I don't know if they're going to have the follow-up call down. We also have Fatal Bonds on top of everybody. Chessie dropping low, as is everybody else. They're all dying. Swindles isn't going to survive long. Aegis is just going to mean that he dies a second time over. And it looks like Cloud9 are going to put themselves in a position to be able to win this game. We talked about the timing window for this, 20 minutes. And after that, compLexity is probably going to end up dropping. 25 is the time, and GG gets called as Cloud9 take game 2.
Yeah, we're going to a third game. There's a lot of emotions on the line here between these two teams, so we'll see who can make it out. And I have to say, just we already mentioned it, but compLexity this draft, maybe not exactly what they needed for the game. It also has to be said that it's, Vlad's playing from Russia, super late for him. Cloud9 had a lot of time to think after their other matches, although so did compLexity. And so I think this next game should be pretty good.
I'm excited. Can't wait. We're going to be back in just a second. Speaking of people being probably a little bit tired, we want to make sure we get into that next one as soon as possible. So we'll be right back.